Yes people, welcome back to Brendan Pearson Fitness. Now today's video is going to be a little bit more informative and me talking through things. So if you're not too keen on that sort of stuff and you enjoy the vlog sort of style of training, watch last week's video, which was a little bit more in-depth on my training and a bit more of a vlog. However, today we are going to be talking about progressive overload. A lot of my clients have asked me questions in terms of how to progress their exercise. When do they know to lift heavier? When do they know to push the intensity? Now I just want to kind of cover it in one video so it's kind of done and dusted, and obviously my clients can look at it and you can also benefit from this as well at home if you are interested. So it's all going to be to do with how to progressive overload. Now I've got a little presentation together talking about different ways that you can progressively overload and little kind of moments how you realize when you need to overload and start increasing that weight, increasing the reps, and just how to periodize things a little bit. So yeah, let's jump straight into this little presentation and yeah, just listen to me ramble for 20 minutes or so. Right, let's go. Right, so how to progressive overload. Let's jump straight into this one. So firstly, what is progressive overload? This is the official little definition of it, just to bore you. A gradual increase in stress or volume placed on the musculoskeletal and nervous system over the period of time. Pretty much means it's just a gradual increase in some sort of stress on the body in general. Now, there's a few different methods. There's 4 different methods I'm going to talk about. I'm going to dive into each one individually. First method that we can go into is going to be increasing volume. Within increasing volume, there's going to be a few different ways to do it. We've got 4 different ways within this. We've got increasing weight, we've got increasing reps, we've got adding sets or rounds if you're doing more conditioning stuff, and then we've also got extended sets, like drop sets and rest pauses, which I'll go into in a second. But volume in general is going to be your reps times your weight. So if you're doing 3 sets of 10 at 10 kilograms, if I can do quick maths, that's 300. So that's 300 kilograms. You just want to try and progress that over a course of time. Again, I'm probably going into it too much. You'll understand when I go into it here. So first method, increasing weight. This is just an example. Say we're going to use the example of a dumbbell bench press here. So we've got, say, a programmed 3 sets of 10. So I'll program you this as one of your exercises in your strength session. Week number 1, you might start off at 10 kilograms and be able to do 3 sets of 10 relatively comfortably, completing them with good form, obviously, of course. Then next time you come to that session, whether it's maybe later in the week or a week later for this example, you're going to try and increase the weight within that rep range. So for the first set, you might try 12 kilograms. You might get your first set of 10. Then obviously you can just go back to the 10 kilograms. Maybe that 12 kilograms was really tough, so you're just going to keep it at 10 kilograms and get 2 more sets of 10. Then each week we're looking to try and increase the amount of times that we're getting that 12 kilograms for a set of 10. So in the 3rd week there, you can see 12 kilograms, we did 2 sets of 10. The last set we did 10 kilograms for 10. Then the last week we should be able to get all 3 sets, at 12 kilograms for 10, 10, 10 reps. You can see how I've progressed it here. Obviously, not every week you're going to perfectly progress. There might be some weeks you're a little bit more tired, you sleep deprived or whatever it is, you might not perfectly progress, but this is just an example. Note at the bottom there may be some weeks where you don't progress, which is why this method is limited. I prefer to give rep ranges, for example, 3 times 8 to 12 reps. You've got a little bit of flexibility there within your rep ranges, rather than strict reps like the 3 sets of 10 in most cases. With this little flexibility, you'll probably see in the other examples I'm going to show you, it just allows for you to maybe go up 1 rep at a time. So you see you can't quite push that 12 kilograms. It's a little bit too heavy for now. Once you complete your 3 sets of 10, the next week you could probably go 1 set of 11 and then 2 sets of 10. And then the week after that, you can maybe go 2 sets of 11, 1 set of 10, which I'll show you an example. So there's a little bit more flexibility and room to kind of micro progress rather than having to jump up in weight every week, which I know is harder, especially when you're a beginner and trying to progress. And even when you're later down the line in your lifting career, it is harder to progress that way. Next example is going to be adding reps. So we've got an example here, dumbbell bench press again, 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. Week 1, we'll start at that lower rep range. That's what I normally tell my clients to do. If you've got a rep range, always start at the bottom so you can progress. And obviously try and lift as heavy as you can within that rep range, within that kind of lower threshold. But lift as heavy as you can and try and get them 8 reps. Like we have the example here, week number 1, 3 sets of 8 at 10 kilograms. Then next week, we'll try and add that 1 rep, like I mentioned before, add that 1 rep of that first set. Yes, then we'll add that 1 rep. Moving on to week number 3, we're going to add 2 sets of 9. So we're going 9, 9, and 8. Then we're on to week number 4, where you should be getting all sets of 9. And as you can see, as we go down the line to like week 16 or 17, we've progressed to that 3 sets of 12, so at the upper end of that rep range. From there, we can then up the weight and go to that 12 kilograms if that's kind of the next weight in your gym. Some gyms that they go up in 2 kilograms, some gyms go up in 2.5, so 12 kilograms. So this example, start at the bottom of that rep scheme and then progress as we go through, and hopefully it can kind of flow a little bit more fluidly. There might be a few weeks again that you obviously don't progress as well, and there might be some weeks, like I know at the bottom there, that you might actually be able to progress a little bit faster. So you might be able to, you know what, this 3 sets of 8 this first week was too easy, next week I'm going to go 3 sets of 9 and then build from there. You don't have to keep on just progressing 1 rep at a time. If you feel good and you're not obviously pushing yourself too hard too soon, then you can just push it up. Next method is going to be adding sets or adding rounds. Now this is going to be something I like to push a little bit more with conditioning, and I'll explain why afterwards, but this is just an example in terms of strength training. Again, just taking the example of the dumbbell bench press. We've got week number 1, we've got 2 sets of 10 at 10 kilograms. The next week we could go to 3 sets of 10, and then the week after that is 4 sets of 10. Now it's quite a big jump in volume in terms of adding 10 kilograms each week in terms of adding an extra set. So some people might not be able to actually be able to do this, especially if you're working quite hard that first week. And an example for the condition there, we've got EMOM, so adding an extra bit of volume in rounds. So if you don't know what EMOM stands for, it's every minute on the minute. The start of every minute, you'll do a set exercise for a set amount of reps, complete it within that minute, rest whatever's left of that 1 minute. When the next minute starts, you start a new exercise. But pretty much it's just 3 rounds of 3 different exercises for 9 minutes. Then you would go to 4 rounds, and then the last week where it says 15-minute EMOM, it would be 5 rounds. Now for conditioning work, I find volume works a little bit better in terms of adding rounds. It works a lot better. Just personally for strength training, like I said before, I find it hard. People struggle to kind of, first of all, tolerate the big increase in volume rather than just adding a rep or 2, because pretty much if you look at it, you're adding 10 reps. Rather than just adding 1 or 2 reps per week, you're adding a full set of 10, like full 10 reps there. So it is a big increase. Also, there's a lot of studies in science to say that adding sets on strength exercises isn't as effective. However, if you're changing the rep scheme, so say you're going from a 3 sets of 10 and you're going to be dropping the reps down to say sets of 5, obviously increasing the weight to match the intensity needed, you could probably push that up to 4 sets or maybe 5 sets. So that just kind of changes the volume a little bit. But if you're staying at that set rep range, you're probably better to try and progress the reps in the weight rather than the sets. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not rambling too much, but conditioning wise, I find it still works quite well. Extended sets. So these are things that are going to extend your typical set and add volume that way. Very typical in bodybuilding, drop sets, rest pauses, which I'll go into in a second. Just an example here. Say you could have an 8-week training block. For the first 4 weeks of your training block, you're just going to do your standard 3 sets of 8 to 12. And then when it comes to the later end of your training block, so the last 4 weeks maybe, you can maybe add in a rest pause set or something to extend the set, a rest pause, a drop set, or some force reps. And you can see here my amazing client James, I'm giving him some force reps, which you can see at the bottom there, is when a partner assists you from the last reps, which you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. Because if you were training on your own, you try to lift, so he's doing like a dumbbell ladder cable lateral raise, He's pushing. You can't go any higher because the resistance is that hard and he's fatigued that much, he can't lift it. I'm just going to then lift a little bit, give him a little bit of a boost, just enough assistance so he can obviously lift it up. It's going to be a little bit lighter for him, but then he can finish that rep and then he can just control it down as normal. So it's just getting a little bit more where you wouldn't be able to. Some machines are designed quite nicely to kind of naturally do that with you. I know a lot of the Nautilus stuff is very good at that, but a lot of gym machines are designed well these days. But rest pause sets, another example. So this would be your normal set. So on your last set of your 3 sets of 12, you might get 10 reps, just as an example. Then what you would do, you would rest 10 to 15 seconds, not change the weight, don't do anything, keep the weight the same. Then when that 10 to 15 seconds is up, you would go again, maybe a few deep breaths obviously in between to try and get that heart rate down. Idea behind this is if you give yourself that little bit of extra recovery, first of all, you should be able to get some more reps out. And second of all, you're going straight back into those effective reps. So the effective reps, the ones that kind of really stimulate hypertrophy and that muscle growth, and normally the last 3 or 4 reps. So you're going straight back into another 3 or 4 reps that are going to be really tough and hard to grind out. You're not going to be able to get another set of 10. No chance you're going to be able to do that, but it could be 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 reps on your rest pause set. Just a way to get some extra volume in. Drop sets. An example would be to drop the weight 50%. So say you do a set of 10, again with 10 kilograms on a dumbbell bench press, just an example. What you would do then, you would sit up, drop the weight, pick some 5 kilograms up, which is around 50, well, it is 50%, and then go back in and try and get as many reps as you can with that 5 kilograms, that 50%. Same thing applies to machine stuff. If it's a leg extension, you do 50 kilograms or whatever it is on leg extension, do your set of 8 to 12. Once you hit failure or within your kind of prescribed rep range, then drop it 50%, around 25 kilograms, and then go again. It doesn't have to be 50%. That's just a kind of nice rule of thumb where you should be able to maybe get the same amount of reps as you got on your first set, if that makes sense. So if say you got 10 reps on that first set, and your drop set, you might be able to get another 10 reps with 50%. But you can drop it kind of whatever you feel suits you, or whatever your coach programmed you. It's great if you're short on time. I've made a note at the bottom there. It's great if you're short on time, this sort of training, because obviously you don't have to rest that full minute or 2 minutes that you would normally do to get an extra set in. You're almost going straight back into another set and saving yourself a minute or two. So if you are short on time, you can do full sessions like this. Just made a note that you've got to manage recovery well. A lot of bodybuilders do this. So I like to leave the rest pauses, the drop sets, the force reps to the end of a training block, where maybe you're going to deload and you're a little bit more fatigued, but we're trying to push the stimulus as much as possible, because in a few weeks' time, we're probably going to have a more of a chilled week to let our body recover. So that's the way that I would do that. Next one, method number 2 is going to be manipulating tempo. Tempo is the speed of which you control a particular movement, and it's made up of 3 different parts. So you've got your eccentric. Again, we'll take the example of a bench press if you kind of look at me here. Eccentric, so you're at the top, you start at the top of your arm straight. Eccentric is going to be that lowering phase. So when the muscle is actually stretching on the low, so you've got your pectoral muscle here. As you go down, it's actually stretching. Yes, it's contracting, but it's stretching as we go down. The isometric is going to be a pausing sort of motion. So you would pause it in that bottom position for maybe half a second or a second, depends what you're prescribed. And then the concentric is the upwards phase. So this is when the muscle's shortening. So example on here, on a dumbbell bench press, the pec, your chest muscle shortening, your shoulders, also your front delts shortening, and also your triceps shortening. Same applies to every single movement. So eccentric, lowering, isometric, the pause, same at the top. When you're pausing at the top, that's an isometric. And then concentric is that upwards motion, or when the muscle is getting shorter. How I'd write tempo down, just for anybody who's unsure how I would write it down when I'm programming. So we write it down like this. See, this is the example here, 3, 1, 1, 1. So the first number is, we always start with eccentric when I write things down. So it's always eccentric first, no matter what. I don't know if any coaches do it differently, but I'm always eccentric first. So most examples will be this sort of tempo. So we've got a 3-second eccentric, again, dumbbell bench press, 3 seconds on the way down, 1, 2, 3, 1 second pause at the bottom. And then we're on to the concentric, 1 second, so that's just up with control. And then you can pause at the top as well for 1 second just to stabilize. I might write X. So for example, on concentrics, sometimes I might write X. This could be more for strength-based movement or plyometric-based movements. This pretty much means trying to do it as quick as possible. So it could be a 3, 1, X, 1. So the X is for the concentric. So it'd be 3 seconds down, 1 second pause, really fly up as quick as we can, 1 second pause at the top. So that's more strength-based movements. I might write that in as well. We can change the tempo to make exercises easier or harder at certain phases of the movement. We like a nice slow eccentric to make a lot of muscle damage. Most of the muscle damage is done on the eccentric phase. We can also lift a lot more load on the eccentric phase, so slowing that down also saves our ligaments and tendons a little bit rather than going down to the bottom and bouncing back up when we're loading, obviously, ligaments and tendons, like I said. Here is how we can use tempo as a way to progress through a training cycle, which might be done sometimes, might not be done all the time. So this could be a strength and development phase that you're going through, a period where you obviously want to get a bit stronger. We could start with a lot of slow tempo. So you can see here, we've got a 3-second eccentric, or 3 second on the lowering phase. For example, dumbbell bench press again, 3 seconds down, a 2 second pause, 1, 2, and then a 2 second concentric. So we're actually trying to slow it down on the concentric. And this can be used for kind of mind-muscle connection in the bodybuilding world, to really think about contracting that muscle on the way back up. And it also means we can't lift as heavy. So if we're going slower, you're going to probably find that muscle is going to fatigue a lot quicker, and we can't rely on our connective tissue, our ligaments and tendons, which kind of are a little bit of like a reflex. I think I've wrote it down here. We can start we start with control, where there isn't as much weight, or we can't lift as much weight, and our muscles will control the movement. Then we can progress the intensity by allowing more tendon stretch reflex, which is what I was trying to say before. As the tempo speeds up, we can lift more weight. So you can see as the weeks progress, we just kind of speed up the tempo. So week number 2, you go 3 second eccentric, 2 second pause at the bottom, and then a 1 second concentric, and then obviously a 1 second pause at the top. Next one, we have got 2 seconds down, so we're speeding up that eccentric a little bit. So the faster we go down, most likely the faster we're going to want to go back up, because then again, then tendons are going to start to stretch reflex and kind of give us a bit of a spring back up. Then we go down to a 1-1-1-1 tempo. Get my ones out, so that's 1 second down, 1 second pause, 1 second up, 1 second pause, so a little bit faster. Then we add in almost like an all-out week. So this could be going for like a PR sort of, you would see in like, I don't know, powerlifting meet or whatever it is, or just trying to lift as heavy as we can, be as strong as we possibly can. Might involve a little bit of bouncing off the chest if you're doing like a barbell bench press. But 1 second down, bang, power up, 1 second concentric, and then a 1 second reset at the top. Just an example how you could progress it. Again, this sort of method, earlier on, more kind of stress on the muscles. Further down the line, because we're lifting heavier, it's more stress on the central nervous system, and also a little bit more stress on tendons and ligaments, because again, more weight and more kind of work that they have to do. Method number 3, we're moving on to manipulating intensity or effort. Now this can be used by RPE and RIR, which I'll go into in a second, but you can see here, managing training intensity, how hard you work. So that's what intensity is, how hard we are working, how close to failure we are working, how high our heart rate is going in terms of if we're looking at cardiovascular conditioning work. This can be a good way of progressively overloading your training during a cycle. We do this by managing our RP and RIR. So these are a few different kind of phrases you might have heard before. RP stands for rate of perceived exertion, so how hard you are. 0 being how hard you are, how hard the session was, or how hard the exercise is. So 0 would be obviously super easy, like you could do this all day. 10 being 10 out of 10, all out failure. It's horrendous. If I'm doing condition, my heart rate's 200 beats per minute, I'm dying, I want to stop, I want to curl up in a ball and cry. That's how hard it wants to be. And then RIR is the same sort of thing. It's more of a bodybuilding term, so it's reps in reserve. Like I said, it's more appropriate to resistance training. So if you've got 0 reps in reserve, it's probably the same as a 10 RPE. So you physically could not lift another rep at all unless someone assisted you. You're just struggling at all. And then like a 3 reps in reserve, which would mean on your last rep, you would probably have 3 reps left in the tank, sorry. Yeah, just it's a good little way of kind of managing fatigue and making sure we're not pushing things too much. So in terms of how would we program it, across the training block? Just an example, week number 1, again, we'll take it more of a strength and resistance training kind of approach here. Week number 1, we've got RPE 7, so this would be 3 reps in reserve, again, just trying to be a little bit more preservative. So if I finish my, again, dumbbell bench press, we've got 3 sets of 10, just as an example. Realistically, I could probably get 13 reps in each one of my sets. However, just saving a little bit in the tank so we can progress and increase the intensity. Because if we go 10 out of 10 intensity all the time, we're going to burn out. So we're starting at 7, then we're moving on to 8 RPE. Week number 2, obviously probably just increasing the weight a little bit. And then RPE 9 for the week after. RPE 10, failure, going all out on that week number 4. And then I like to throw in deload weeks every so often. So week number 5 could be a deload week where we kind of stay 4 reps away from reserve, dropping it down to a 6 out of 10 in terms of how hard it is. But again, the good thing about the RPE is you can manipulate it depending on how you feel on a day. If you come into the gym and you haven't slept well, you're feeling a little bit run down, you're just not feeling great, even if you're prescribed an 8 RPE, but last week it was a 7 RPE, but that 7, when you're warming up and you're lifting the same weight you did on last week, which was a 7 RPE, and it feels a bit heavy and things aren't feeling good, you've just got to kind of what's the word, auto-regulate it yourself. So you set it to whatever you feel like on the day, which is the good thing about this, because not every day you're going to be feeling great, especially clients who have kids, might not have slept very well, they might have a lot of stress on at work, whatever it is, you can kind of manipulate that. So that's the good thing about this. However, if you haven't trained to true failure, I don't know, well, how do you know that you've actually, what a 7 out of 10 is, what an 8 out of 10 is, what 1 rep in reserve sort of means. I think everybody should go through a phase of training all out to failure, just so they understand that. I had like 9 months of bodybuilding, training with a coach who was all about that failure training, so I kind of know my limits. So training with someone who's really going to push you and going to push you to true failure, not until you want to stop, but until you have to stop. There's a little bit of a difference there. So that's the only negative thing. If you've never trained to failure, it's quite hard to judge this. At the bottom you say you can't always work at 9 or 10 RPEs or you will burn out. It's a lot of stress on your central nervous system. Bodybuilders who use a lot of high intensity training to failure, may only do 1 or 2 working sets on their exercises, especially big exercises like back squats, hack squats, deadlifts. It probably will only be 1 really hard all-out working set. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to recover from it, and your joints are probably going to get a little bit too much wear and tear on them. But you're going to manage your training volume. When it comes to accessory work, so like your bicep curls, your leg extensions, all them sort of stuff, calf raises, you can probably push to failure, push them all that 0 RER a little bit more because they're less taxing on your central nervous system. But then bigger compound exercises, which are going to be a lot more weight, like your deadlifts and your squats, you're going to probably want to stay away from failure. To be fair, most of the time, if it's squats, if it's like barbell squats or barbell deadlift, I would most likely always stay at least 1 rep away from failure, unless it's a competition and you are going for records, just because the risk to reward ratio isn't worth it. But if you're using something a bit more safer, like a hack squat, which obviously if you fail, you're just going to hit the bottom and you can get out of it safely. A leg press, providing you've got a spot and stuff like that, dumbbell bench press, you can probably go to failure on that safely, as long as you've got a spotter or you kind of experience within training. Method number 4 is going to be manipulating rest times. Now, a little bit of a different method again. Prefer this method to do with conditioning workouts over resistance training. I'll go into it why in a second. It may also have some benefits in the weight room too, however, but it's something I would more push towards conditioning workouts. Reducing rest times as an example for conditioning. There's me on the treadmill trying to run. An example workout, 5 sets of 500-meter run. The first week, say you're on the track or you're at the treadmill in the gym, you could do 120, so 2 minutes rest in between rounds. You do your 500 meters, rest 2 minutes, then go back into your 500 meters and repeat that for 5 rounds. Week number 2, you could drop the rest periods down 15 seconds, repeat the same thing for 105 seconds, 500 meters, 105 seconds rest, 500 meters, etc., etc. Then we go 90 seconds rest, then 75, and then 60 seconds rest. And then once you do that, you could almost do like a little bit of a retest and go back to that 120 seconds of rest and then try and beat your times and go a little bit faster on your 500 meters. Obviously, as we drop the rest periods down, you're not going to be able to recover as quickly. So obviously, we're trying to taxing the body and giving the body a different sort of stimulus. Hopefully, when we go back to doing the 2 minutes rest, you can obviously get faster times. Hopefully, obviously, or at least your recovery is a little bit better and you can maybe do more rounds afterwards. But then you can look to either increase the distance of the run or redo the training cycle but aim for faster times. So like I just said there, you could increase the distance. I think it goes on to reducing rest times for resistance training. The reason I'm not a massive fan of this is because if you have the goal of increasing strength or building muscle, your aim is to increase total volume, which is reps and weight. Reducing rest times will decrease the amount of volume as you aren't able to recover in between sets, meaning you'll not be able to lift. Excuse my reading, it's horrendous. You'll not be able to lift as much weight for as many reps. So yeah, if you, for example, like we said, go back to the start, can complete 3 sets of 10 on dumbbell bench press at 10 kilograms quite comfortably, and you're having 2 minutes rest in between, which is like the standard sort of 2 minutes rest for strength training, which I'll touch on in a second. If you then drop down to 1 minute rest, you're probably not going to be able to complete them 3 sets. You're going to be a little bit more fatigued because your body doesn't have as much time to recover. When you go back into that second set or that next set, whatever it is, you're just not going to be able to lift that weight. You need that extra minute to recover. So that's why I'm not a big fan of it in terms of trying to build strength or trying to build muscle. I'll go into rest times, like I said, at the end. However, there is many benefits in terms of creating metabolic stress on a muscle, which is one of the ways that we can hypertrophy a muscle. So metabolic stress is pretty much that sort of burning sensation. If you've ever done like a drop set, for example, where obviously there's a lot of metabolic stress when we're reducing that rest time to pretty much nothing, increasing the volume, just trying to get a lot of lactic acid build up in that muscle. That's what the burning sensation is. We can do that by dropping rest periods down. So it could be used for a method, a short period of time, to kind of change the stimulus, just to try and say you've been going through a heavy strength block, doing sets of like 4 to 6s. Again, it can be a lot of stress on your connective tissue and your central nervous system. Could just be a change in stimulus for a short period of time. Again, just to try and induce a little bit of hypertrophy, because it is good to change up the stimulus every so often. You don't have to shock the body or anything like that. But every so often it is a good idea to change stimulus. But also, I said there, it's a good way to deload your body, deload your joints, because you don't need to lift as much weight. It just means we can still put some sort of hypertrophics, they give the body some sort of reason to build muscle. However, our connective tissue, our joints and ligaments have a little bit more time to recover. There's less weight, there's less pressure going through them. Yeah, it's a good way to do that. So after a strength, but I always go to a little bit more of a higher rep, lower rest period, sort of training cycle. But it wouldn't be as long as a strength cycle. My metabolic phase would maybe be 4 weeks, whereas the strength phase could be up to like 16 weeks long, just to give you a little bit of an idea. What else have I know that if you're a woman who's on cycle, this could be a good way to get a good workout in when you're not feeling 100%. So if you're on your period and you're not feeling great, your energy's not there, you obviously women will know what I mean. Obviously I don't have a clue, but obviously with female clients I recommend this. You can go into the gym, say you've got a set workout that's already set. You might be in the middle of a strength phase. If you are struggling, not feeling great, and you're not feeling like you're ready and mentally, physically, just not going to have a good session, drop your rest periods down, drop like them 30 seconds. You can get your workout done quicker, you can get more of a sweat on, and you're obviously going to be lifting less weight, but you're still going to get a good workout in. So it's a good little method. I try and say it to female clients, look, don't try and beat your numbers from the week before, drop your rest periods down, use it as more of like a conditioning sort of workout. You're still getting kind of used to the movements that you're lifting, that you've been doing for the last few weeks. So you're still getting that kind of, that motor recruitment. I forgot the word is now, but kind of getting used to that. Like if you practice the movement, you're going to kind of get better at it, especially movements like squats, deadlift and bench press. There's a lot of skill in that. So if you're practicing the movement, even if it's with lighter weights, you're just going to kind of build up a better rhythm, better practice. I've lost my trail of thought now anyway. But yeah, it's a good method that women can use when they're on the period or not feeling, or even if you're needing to deload or you're not feeling good, you're feeling a bit unwell, a little bit run down, obviously you should probably rest, but if you feel like you could still work out, just drop your rest periods down, drop the weight obviously, and that'll just drop the kind of stimulus on the body, but still got a good workout in. A simple rule of thumb for rest periods: compound lifts like your squats, your benches, anything that's going to be a lot of weight. You want about 2 to 3 minutes. This is for typical strength phases. Again, this is just a general rule of thumb, not like specialising to any individual in particular, but 2 to 3 minutes. And then for isolation movements, like I said, your bicep curls, leg extensions, all that sort of stuff, and you're looking around 60 and 90 seconds. Again, it can go a little bit lower if you wanted to, but if I was just to say, you just had Joe Blogs there, right, I want you to do bench, squat, whatever it is, deadlift, 2 to 3 minutes rest on that one, and then your isolation movements, your bicep curls and stuff, stick to 60 and 90 seconds, and that would do the job. There's me torturing Jared on some lateral raises. The key to progressive overload: track your progress. Make sure you are tracking things. If you aren't tracking things, how the hell do you know if you're progressing, and how the hell do you know what you lifted last week? You should always be looking at what you did last week or the last time you did a certain session and say, look, I got 3 sets of 10 at 10 kilograms that session. How can I progress it this week? I can add a rep, I can add a little bit of weight on one set, I can try and do this, that and the other. You've got to look back and always just be progressing in the ways that I've kind of said there. So track your progress. Make sure you either use a logbook, like an old-fashioned bodybuilding logbook, or an app on your phone such as TrueCoach, which is what all my clients get to track their lifts. And obviously I can see it and visually see what they're tracking as well. An app called Strong, which I've used for years. I don't know if you have to pay for it now. And then Rep Count, I think you have to pay for it. So it's a small subscription, like a couple of quid a month, I think. So Strong, Rep Count. You can obviously see the weights you lifted last week and try and progress it and beat them each week. You'll not progress every session, so don't get stressed if there's maybe a session or two that you don't progress. But if you look at the grand scheme of things over the course of a year, you might have started at one weight. Hopefully you're up here at some point, and just look at that kind of gradual progression. It might be up and down, but as long as in the big picture we are moving upwards. Very important point there. If there's any questions, drop me a comment down below, drop me a message. Any of my clients, just WhatsApp me. Anybody on Instagram or whoever, wherever you're watching this, on YouTube, drop me a comment, drop me a message. My Instagram's at Brendan Pearson Fitness. All the links to everything are down below. Email, inquiries if you're interested in working with me, my podcast process, my newsletter, my weekly newsletter, all that stuff is down below as well. I'm trying to bring out some training programs as well soon. But any questions on progressive overload, or any other topics you'd like me to cover in this fashion, let me know. If you did like this style of video, give us a like, comment, message me like I just said. But that is hopefully covered everything to do with how to progress in your training, and hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I might do more like this in the future. But anyways, we'll probably be back to vlogging. Maybe the next vlog might be the High Rocks vlog. I don't know, we'll see. But yes, thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Over and out.